2021 was a huge year for camera releases, but I wanted to look forward into this year to see what's coming from Canon in 2022. So yeah, the year has only just begun. It's still January, but already we've seen one of potentially the biggest releases of the year from Canon with the EOS R5C, their addition to the R5 and new addition to the cinema range family of cameras. It's a blockbuster release from them, but beyond that, I want to see what else we can expect from Canon this year from all the leaks and the news and the rumours and all the stories that we could find of what potentially is to come this year. And straight off the bat, we've got to start with the Aps-C size sensor for the RF mount cameras. This has long been a rumour, and for many people, this was expected to happen before the R5C was even released. The R7 is the name that's been batted around as the first Aps-C sized camera for the RF system. This will be a more, let's say, budget-friendly addition to the Canon mirrorless range of cameras, but is a much needed and likely step for them to make, as currently there are no Aps-C sized sensors in the RF mirrorless mount. If you want an Aps-C sized form factor without a mirror, you currently have to look to the Canon EOS M range, and let's face it, that's more than, well, depreciated by Canon by now. What we're likely to see with the R7 first of all is borrowing the best bits that we've seen from the R range of cameras, particularly the R5 and the R6, some of the best bits anyway, and refined into a smaller Aps-C size censored body. This is obviously going to reduce the cost significantly. We're looking at around a £1,700 price point to get into this range of cameras, and really is almost certainly going to be aimed at that kind of content creator market, the people that want to shoot video on the move, but not necessarily in a professional setting. But that's not to say that this camera won't be more than capable of keeping up with some professionals' demands. The R7 will certainly be a good addition, perhaps as a second camera for most professionals. This is likely to be the kind of merged upgrade of the Canon 90D from the DSLR family and the, let's think what it's called now, is it the M6 Mark II from the EOS M? Moving on from that and still keeping with the Aps-C sized theme is the R8 and R9. Now these will be respectively even more budget additions to the RF family of cameras. We will have the same Aps-C sized form factor, the same kind of borrowed bits from the more expensive full frame additions to the family, but trimmed down into even more budget additions. These cameras, the R8 and the R9, will be Canon's new entry point into their family of photography and hybrid video cameras. This is likely to spell the complete end of the EF mount. We know that Canon aren't making new lenses for that, but they are still selling the bodies and selling a lot of them. These cameras will likely be the new entry point, the new 250Ds, let's say. The R8 and the R9 will be the places that new content creators and hobbyists will enter into the Canon ecosystem. But they will offer a lot for the money. When you think about how capable cameras like the 70D were back in the day, well, this is taking that kind of place in the market, and possibly when we're looking at the R9, for a sub £1,000 camera, you're probably going to get quite a lot for your money. Now, with that, with the R7, the R8 and the R9, the introduction of the Aps-C sensor into Canon's mirrorless cameras, we are seeing the complete death of the DSLR. Yes, it's true, Canon are slaughtering it, they're killing it off. This has even been confirmed as much by the Canon CEO himself, who said that the 1DX Mark III is the final flagship DSLR camera from Canon. So for those of you that don't know, the 1DX Mark III is the pinnacle of Canon's cameras. It is the flagship photography camera in the DSLR family. Once they make that, then the technology from that is kind of watered down as you go down the family. I'm oversimplifying it for those that you know, but that's kind of how it goes. So once the flagship's gone, then obviously the rest of the family will follow suit as well. That essentially means with the 1DX Mark III being the final flagship DSLR, we will stop seeing Canon making mirrored cameras entirely as we go through 22 into 2023. That also means that the EF mount will be dead for good as well. along with the EOS M range. Now, to be honest, that's been dead for a while, but there are some beautiful cameras that you can get there still. There's some very capable cameras, but Canon never really embraced the EOS M range of cameras, did they? Very few lenses that they made. In fact, the best lenses for them were made by Sigma, which tells you everything you need to know about Canon's love for the EOS M range. This is both good and bad, obviously. It's always sad to see a mount disappear from the market and that tiny EOS M form factor that was so good for taking videos on the go disappear. It's always sad, but it does mean that there'll probably be some bargains to be had in the used market as we move through 2022. But with the introduction of the APS-C size sensor, the R7, the R8 and the R9 coming in 2022, we will see not just the end of the DSLR, but also the end of the EOS M range of cameras. That's almost a certainty. And talking of endings for Canon, there's also one massive ending about to happen as well, and that is the end of dual pixel autofocus. Now that should be like a headline on its own, it's pretty dramatic, but it's not what it would suggest. Dual pixel autofocus is obviously the revolutionary autofocus technology that Canon introduced, I think it was in 2013. But anyway, when I first came across it in a Canon 70D, it changed everything about how I shot video at the time. It was the first time that I could really shoot video with autofocus being accurate enough, and especially in that DSLR form factor. It was mind-blowing, and it's obviously been evolved as time's gone on, but the basics of dual pixel autofocus has been the benchmark for autofocus systems in cameras for the past, what are we now, 8-9 years. Dual pixel autofocus is coming to an end because there's been a leaked patent from Canon introducing quad pixel autofocus. What that actually means is probably too boring to share with everyone. Something about cross pixels and diode. I don't know. And to be honest, I don't really care how the science works as long as it is a massive improvement. And let's face it, if it is going to replace dual pixel autofocus, Canon have got to be sure that it is a massive improvement because that technology is already very, very good. What's exciting about quad pixel autofocus is the cameras that it's going to be in, obviously. And the first expected edition is with the big boy, the Mac Daddy, the flagship, Canon's EOS R1. Now, we're pretty sure this is coming this year, 2022. It's going to be the back end of the year, but this will be Canon's flagship mirrorless camera. Along with the Canon CEO saying that the 1DX Mark III is the final DSLR flagship that they're making, they've also been keen to stress the whole way through that the R3 is not their flagship mirrorless camera, so please don't review it as such. So that means all roads point to the R1 and its pending release being the flagship camera in this mirrorless RF mount that Canon are bringing out. This will be Canon's answer to the Sony A1 and the Nikon Z9, and if the R3 isn't their flagship, then they've got a massive gap in their market to go toe-to-toe with those two huge cameras. And let's face it, the Nikon Z9 in particular is an amazing camera and a huge leap forward for Nikon, so Canon have to do something extra special with the Canon R1. Quad pixel autofocus may just be enough on its own to be special enough, considering how much of a leap forward dual pixel autofocus was when it came out almost 10 years ago. There's some caveats to the R1. Firstly, the awful slogan that everyone's batted around that Canon leaked out. It's the jack of all trades, the master of none, except it's the master of everything. Firstly, that just doesn't make sense and it's terrible. The biggest one though, beyond just stupidity, is the price point, and we're getting some indications that this may be close to £10,000. There's been leaks to suggest that Canon have said they'll never see the reintroduction of a £10,000 body, but we know that that also means that they could just come close to £10,000. And when you look at the pricing of some of the other cameras, it's obviously going to have to be more expensive than them, so it doesn't undercut other cameras in its lineup. And if this is the pinnacle, it's going to be the most expensive. So we could be looking at around an £8,000 or £9,000 or dollar camera body, and that may be a hard sell for Canon. Of course, this is the world of Canon cameras. Anything unexpected could happen. We may see things that we just weren't expecting at all be released. It may be new mounts, it may be new lenses, it may just be new technology in general, or maybe new camera bodies that just haven't been leaked at all. I'd love to know what your thoughts are, if you know of anything that we've not covered here, because I want to get up to date. I want to get nitty gritty. I want to find out everything I can about Canon cameras this year. So if you know something that we don't, let us know. And what are your thoughts on cameras to come from Canon this year? The future of Canon in 2022. It's an exciting one. Starting off with this month's release of the R5C, which was, well, a big deal. So anyway, that's enough of me rambling on. Let's leave you to your day. So until the next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.